It's just missed the most exciting part, the introduction. So we'll just have to catch it next time. Okay. So the minutes were included in the package for the agenda for tonight's meeting. I would entertain a motion relative to the meeting minutes from February 23rd, 2022.
So moved, Marietta.
Seconded, Elizabeth.
Okay, so we have a move to accept and a second. Any discussion?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, since I'm doing the minutes, the seconder was,
Elizabeth.
thank you.
Thank you,
So
Elizabeth.
I just wanted to say that I thought they were really, really well done.
Yeah, I agree, and I appreciate that because it's a good running record for a lot of the work that we're doing, particularly in the area of justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion. I did want to just take a moment to remind people that in the minutes, there are two questions that Dr. Rakely asked us to ponder between the meeting in February and our next, which should be in April. And those two questions are on the second page of the minutes, line 16 or 15 through 17. What does ethical performance mean for the NRPC? So it's, again, ethical performance, one of the topics we'll discuss in the next call with Dr. Rakely. And then second, what vision do you have for the future? So we'll be looking quite distinctively into what our thoughts are for action and performance. So hope you can be prepared for that. If there's no other discussion on the minutes from February, I hear none. All those in favor of accepting the minutes of February 23rd, 2022, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Say nay. And are there any abstentions?
I'll abstain. I wasn't there.
Okay, so Howard, Harold, both abstained. Thank you. All right, so the minutes are approved. And again, thanks to the staff who took that minutes. Do we know who that was this time?
If my memory is correct, it was Marlena, and that was her first time taking your minutes, so I'll be sure to pass on the compliment to her.
Great, great. Good. All right, so back to our agenda, and we'd like to move promptly from this business to our guest speaker. And a lot of you know Sean from his previous work, both on the commission and also in the community. And we're all very glad to have him representing the Communication Union District and specifically being here tonight to give us an update on the Northwest Communications Union District. Sean.
Thanks for the introduction, Bill. Appreciate that. Poor Elizabeth is going to see this maybe for the third time this week, so that'll be exciting for her. I think I can screen share. Let's see here. And get that out of the way.
Yeah, we got it.
There we go. Excuse me, give me 1 second. We rushed to get dinner in tonight, so.
It's
Okay.
a great graphic you've got there. I love that picture. Wow.
I can't take credit. We had to buy it. So it was, I think one of the first assets that CUD bought was a nice image. Well, for those who aren't aware, we did adopt a DBA name, doing business as name, the fall of last year, roughly. We now go by the moniker of Northwest Fiberworks, which is a heck of a lot easier to say than Northwest Vermont Communications Union District. But we are still a CUD. We are still working under that title. Just as a reminder, these are currently the 21 communities that are a part of Northwest. Primarily, probably since the last time some of you have seen our map, it's primarily the islands: South Hero, Grand Isle, North Hero, possibly Isle Lamont. We're probably the latest additions. I think probably the last community, which was the lone Chittenden County community of Milton, has joined as well. So we have now 21 communities represented within the district. Again, some of you have seen this before, but we believe that what we're doing is going to create a generational change, and that it has significant socioeconomic impact for our region and in a number of different facets. But we feel strongly that we are creating a future utility that can serve our region with fiber broadband for the next 40 to 50 years. Our vision is to break the barrier for internet access for all in our communities. Our mission is to leverage partnerships and procure funding to connect Northwest Vermont via open access fiber to ensure opportunities for all homes and businesses in our region.
I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
Will this enable the rest of the towns to hook up through Franklin? Are they going to have their own independent fiber or what?
For the town of Franklin?
Yeah.
The town of Franklin, everyone has been invited. Every community has had an opportunity to join. Some communities like Fletcher began their broadband exploration process roughly around the same time as the CUD came into existence, and they continue to kind of do their own. Franklin has a unique situation in that they have a local telco. Not many other towns in the region do. So they do have a local telco. So it was just a case of need. My understanding is that those conversations in Franklin do continue on whether or not the community does want to join the CUD. But for us, we don't advocate either way. We would love to have any community join, but it's ultimately up to the community to make that decision.
But they don't have fiber, correct?
My understanding is that the local telco in Franklin does provide fiber.
Okay.
Our goals, which I'm proud to say that we have stuck to our convictions on these and haven't deterred from them from the very beginning, which can be difficult. We wanted to provide universal access to all homes and businesses in our region, use the technology platform of fiber on an open access network, prioritize the underserved, those most affected, have it be reliable and affordable, accelerate the timeline, try to find a quick way to do this. There is no quick way to do this, but try to find a relatively quick way to do this. And then some level of implementation or beginning construction in 2022, which so far we are on track to begin construction this fall. What is the problem? Currently right now, Northwest represents 29,176 homes and businesses or premises. Of that, 2,574 are considered unserved. They have no connectivity whatsoever. Over 7,800 do not meet the FCC definition of broadband. So they have limited connectivity, leaving around 27% of the homes and businesses in our district not having adequate connectivity for today. This just gives a breakdown. This is public service data that was published last October to give you an idea of currently, you may see your community on this list very likely, and what their percentage of underserved is within your community.
What's going on? What's Highgate and Grand Isle?
They have primarily they have cable. They have Comcast mostly through those areas. So we have a mix of communities. The early communities that joined the CUD were those who were most in need, who jumped at the opportunity to be a part of this and work through it. Our focus has grown, and I'll share that here in a moment, but our focus has grown to seeking a solution and finding a solution to serve not just the 25 under 3 problem, but meeting the state goal of 100 over 100. And I'm speaking of the megabits per second. So the state has a 10-year goal of achieving every home and address having at least 100 over 100. Currently today in our district, only 3% of our addresses meet that standard. So we've been seeking a solution to, okay, rather than solve this over a period of 10 years, is there a possibility that we can leverage what grant opportunities we have and potential revenue through the network to address the entirety of the district? And we believe that we've crafted that model and that we're on a successful path, which is the model. Northwest plans to build, own, and maintain a fiber to the premise open access network, and I'll elaborate on open access here a little more. This network will universally serve every home and business that is currently not connected to a fiber network. Again, we're looking at roughly 97% of premises within Northwest. The network creates a marketplace for retail ISPs, telehealth providers, 5G providers, enterprise schools, towns, and other entities. Particularly for retail ISPs, the network allows users to choose their own service provider, not limited to just one. So in a sense, we have open roads and several providers can deliver services rather than the traditional method of an incumbent comes in, they build the infrastructure, and they're the only folks that can use it. We felt from both a service quality standpoint and an affordability point, that was the best way to solve those issues of introducing competition and having an open access model. Why fiber? Sometimes we get questions, and why aren't you doing wireless? Why aren't you doing this or that? Ultimately, fiber is the best technology available to achieve what we're doing from a speed standpoint, reliability, redundancy. Generally, is future-proof. It's kind of a cliche term, but really, it's only limited by the electronics on either end of the fiber. The fiber cables itself are generally future-proof. From an affordability standpoint, while it's more costly upfront to build a fiber network, the long-term economics of operating a fiber optic network is significantly lower than other technologies, and less need to do replacement over several periods of time. So that's why we chose fiber from the very beginning, as well as every other CUD across the state is seeking to do a fiber optic network. Even the incumbent providers that exist today are cycling out their old plant for fiber optic cables. Open access, I spoke on it just a few minutes ago, but again, this kind of gives you a little more idea. Again, the CUD will own, operate the network. We will have tenants on that network, retail providers or enterprise providers, providing internet services to residents, commercials, and multifamily. We are currently still exploring opportunities. We're working with the state to identify options to serve municipalities and institutions like schools and libraries as well. So we're seeking some of those solutions as well. But it gives you a little bit more of an idea of what open access means.
So Sean, there's a question from Sylvia, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but so what about Starlink? I mean, the future seems to be in space. What kind of speeds can you get with Starlink and the affordability factor versus fiber?
Conveniently, I have Starlink. So Starlink is a great interim solution. It requires wide open sky, however, so it's not a good solution for everyone. I myself had to run 100 feet of conduit and mount the satellite in the center of my yard. It's not a great solution if you have a lot of trees or canopy around your home. That can be a challenge for some people to install. Currently, right now, I see anywhere from 100 to 150 megabytes down with an upload of 10 to 20. Fiber is symmetrical, so the same speeds upload and download. The service provider that we are currently negotiating with, which is in the news, and I can now share that, is Google Fiber. They are committing to having set pricing across all their markets. So Vermont is not going to have a different pricing than somebody in Provo, Utah. Just to use an example, Google does a gigabit of fiber up and down for $70. My Starlink cost just went up $10, so I'm now paying $110 a month for that 150 over 200. Now, I'm completely fine doing that because the alternative is DSL, at which for those who remember me trying to do these calls a year or two ago was brutal. So it
All
is
right,
it's just a different service quality, but absolutely it's a fantastic interim solution until a fiber option becomes available. I'm very much in that position as well.
Thank you.
I tossed in some FAQs recently because these are questions I've been making my rounds to doing organization meetings and community meetings, and these are almost always the questions that people ask. Which towns will get fiber first? We're currently working through that process. It's going to cross town boundaries, so don't think of it as town by town. We are following along the electric utilities distribution areas is generally how we're kind of looking at this currently. So it's going to be 7 or 8 smaller phases. One thing that is kind of an equation that goes into how we're making that decision, but a big factor in that is prioritizing those most in need, those communities who have the highest percentages of underserved. So we are very much taking that into account as we plan out who's going to get this first. We want to try to address those in need first. How long will it take? Currently, our project construction plans account for roughly 36 months from the beginning of construction, so sometime this fall. However, workforce availability and supply chain issues are real issues and bottlenecks currently. We are trying to work with experts in the field and trying to eliminate bottlenecks where we can foresee them, but it can happen. Just like any infrastructure project, we're trying to anticipate those areas where they are, but we're likely to have a few hurdles along the way. How's this project funded? Currently, the CUD is funded using state and federal grants. We will be seeking commercial loans, revenue bonding in the future. We've been having a lot of discussions with the Vermont Community Foundation, Vermont Bond Bank, and organizations like that to try to secure the other part that's not currently funded by grants. Once operational, the CUD will be sustained by network and tenant revenue. Does my town pay taxes? Hopefully everyone knows by now, but no. The protected under state statute, the CUDs do not have the power to levy, assess, or collect any tax upon the community members. What will the economic impact be? It's significant. I've been in the industry for a long time. I've seen the benefits of having a holistic rollout of a fiber optic network in communities. Everything from small business owners and entrepreneurs having this infrastructure be able to innovate and operate their businesses. Governments have the ability to solve big issues, database problems, smart grid, other green technologies that we haven't even thought of yet. It raises property values just simply by having a fiber broadband connection. So there's a lot of there's tons of studies out there, but there are a lot of benefits economically and socially to having broadband availability through an entire region. What will my internet bill be? I just kind of spoke about that a little bit. For us, the internet service provider, again, we likely, ideally, will have several providers, but there'll be the internet service fee plus a infrastructure fee that is necessary to maintain and operate the network. Our view of this fee is it's not in perpetuity, that it is something that as we have more tenants on the network and we're able to generate revenue from our tenant ISPs on the network, we can eliminate that infrastructure fee in time. But currently, it is modeled to be a necessary function to continue to maintain and operate, which isn't uncommon. I think generally there's infrastructure and operational fees on just about every infrastructure project or utility we use. How can you help? Ultimately, spread the word. Let your communities know that the CUDs are working on their behalf to make this happen, to bring broadband equity to basically every corner within our district. Our boards, we have board elections coming up in May, just like many other boards and communities. But should anybody be interested in being a part of the CUD and being a board member, now just contact their local select boards to participate. And with that, short and sweet, but I'll take questions if anyone has any.
Great, thanks, Sean, and nice presentation. Good to have the FAQs. There's a kind of companion effort, I guess it's companion, to try to bring more wireless telecommunications to Vermont.
Mhm.
And is this project in any way working with knowledge of that and knowledge of the CUD efforts across the state, so that they are complementary, not likely to be resulting in issues that become problems? I wondered if you knew about that.
Conveniently, I had a conversation today. We'll call it unofficial knowledge. It's parties are aware. We're trying to seek a solution because the CUD's focus is so singular and our capacity is small. Our CUD is the largest staff in the state. We have 2.5 employees. So our capacity is small. I know there's been discussions about the CUD stepping up and assisting in some of those roles to help coordinate some of the effort. It's difficult for us currently just because of our capacity, but we are aware of that. The benefit, again, I mentioned it, of what kind of a robust, redundant network like this can provide, which is it can provide that backhaul for the wireless services and public safety nets and things like that, it's going to be a part of that. It's just connecting the dots over time here. We are aware of it. It's just currently, capacity concerns of us taking on more responsibility or role in that. But, we were having conversations today with Public Service Department and the Department of Public Safety.
And then one more, and I'll ask if there's others. So where there is already some cable or fiber service, will they have to stay with their current service, or will they have an opportunity to switch services if the fiber, for example, runs down parallel with another service?
Yeah, if we pass their home, they will have an opportunity. There's no, unless we're locked in a contract for whatever reason, but there's no reason why somebody would not be able to switch to a different provider.
Great. How about other questions from other commissioners?
I have one.
Go ahead, Richard.
What's the lifespan of the cable? Is this something you could put up, the fiber cable, and it's good for whatever, or is there a lifespan to it?
They say 50 years. I don't think anyone knows.
That's a lifespan for me.
Right. They say 50 years. I mean, honestly, there's fiber optic cables still in operation that were laid in the 70s. That's roughly around the time that the first fiber optic cables started being deployed. And those are still operational today. So it's, they say 50 years, but I think that's probably an underestimate, honestly.
Good.
Anyone else?
Bill, can you see that Peter has his hand up?
No, I couldn't. Go ahead, Peter.
Yeah, thank you. Having been an observer of various promises for 100% broadband throughout the state made by various governors going back, I don't know how long. I'm pretty impressed with your confidence, but would like to know what, from your perspective, what are the largest constraints or challenges you think you face in completing the work?
Yeah, good point. I mean, I'll I'll take a chance to speak on the false promises first, which is this time around, it's Vermonters solving the Vermonter problem. It's not just simply subsidizing the incumbent providers to fix a problem, which has been the path in the past. So this is kind of a completely new way to kind of look at this issue. The biggest constraint, which I did speak to, which is availability of labor and the labor force and materials supply. We've already identified, we have to place orders for supplies and materials at least 10 months in advance. Probably here in the next 3 months, we'll be placing our order for, fall of 2023. So those are big issues that we have long lead times for a lot of the supplies and materials we're going to need. There's the make ready process of coordinating with the electric utilities, which we've developed those relationships over the last few months, and we feel like we're in a very good place. So the moment we're ready to do our make ready and coordinate with the utilities, we should be able to hit the ground running and do that very efficiently, hopefully. But those are the biggest hurdles right now that we identify as workforce availability and supply and materials.
Go ahead, Harold, and then we'll come to you.
Yeah, thank you, Bill. Question for you. When you run the cable, are you going to stick to main highways, or are you going to go into off streets and roads so that everybody has a chance, or are we just going to be in one area if there's going to be so many houses, or we're not coming to you, like the gas line?
Every E911 address on grid without a fiber connection.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Howard.
Yes, Sean, I did get a chance to go over the report about towns combining their efforts. What do you see as the biggest advantages for that?
Are you referring to the towns within our district, or the
Yes.
our joint efforts with Lamoille CUD?
Okay, I got you now.
Either way, the answer is probably the same, which is just economies of scale, bringing together enough communities. I was looking to address this issue when I was serving as the economic development director in Enosburg. I was trying to figure out how to solve a broadband issue, somewhat self-servingly, because I'm a resident of Enosburg, but it was, looking at that and what was the economics behind it and whether or not it made sense. And it was, in excess of $4 million for Enosburg just to do it themselves, and the market was just too small. It just didn't make sense. So collaborating together, bringing the communities together, aggregating premises, and having enough where is really helpful, and it drives down while the project is larger, it does drive down the cost to the consumer, and the manner in which we're building this out. It also brings down the entry point for providers to provide services on the infrastructure, where they're not having to, overbuild and build out a network that's going to cost them the same that it's going to do us to get to everyone. They can just, pay a licensee fee and provide services.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Richard.
If you have cable going by now, are we going to be another line going to go through, or are we going to have to just stick with the monopoly we're dealing with?
There'll be if you do not have fiber at your home, fiber cables will be put on the lines.
No, if you do have fiber, for instance, I'm with Comcast. Will there ever be another line where I could go to another company? There's no competition.
Yeah. Well, if it's not a fiber optic cable, it's very unlikely that Comcast has fiber optic cable in anywhere in our district.
Okay.
As far as we're aware, there's only 2 companies currently that have Consolidated is putting some in, but it's primarily for just backhaul support for their network. MC Fiber down in the Fletcher, Fairfax area, and then Franklin Telephone has fiber. So other than those two, it's very limited. Of like I said, roughly around 3% of addresses in our entire district currently have a fiber connection.
Okay, so we have cable, but it's not fiber.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, go ahead, Harold.
One other question, Bill, for Sean. Have you already got permission from the electric companies and the telephone companies to add the cable to their poles, or is that going to be an issue for you?
It won't be an issue. They're fully in support of the CUDs and what our efforts are. As we go through our phases of build out, we'll have to submit applications to all the utilities to ask to be put on the poles, what they call the make ready process, to ensure the poles are ready. We don't foresee any barriers there. It's just time to get that work done, but they're very willing to willing partners and willing to collaborate where we can to make it an efficient process to get it done quickly.
Sean?
Go ahead, Barkley, and then we'll go to Sylvia.
Yeah, to piggyback on Harold's first question, just out of curiosity, how many thousands of miles of fiber optic are we talking about to do every road essentially in the two counties?
For our district, it's 1,386 miles of fiber optic cables.
It's not as bad as I thought.
Conveniently, it's mostly aerial, so we don't have a lot of underground, so that's helpful.
Interesting. But I'm impressed that you had that number ready to go, Sean. Sylvia.
I've done nothing but eat, sleep, and breathe these numbers for the last 6 months, so I should know them.
Right. Go ahead, Sylvia.
So another question, you brought up the utilities. Were they even considered being a partner when you were trying to develop this, seeing they sort of own the infrastructure of being able to bring it to everyone? Seems, especially like in our area, it's a cooperative, so we benefit from the profits of that. So just curious if there's been some activity in that genre.
Yeah, there has been. I know that, again, roughly around the time that the CUDs were being developed, certainly in the case of VEC, I know that they explored the option of doing it themselves. I think ultimately the business case just wasn't there for them to do it. We did have discussions about different levels of partnership, and there may be something there as still. There's continued discussions on the maintenance and operations sides of the business on whether or not there's some avenues there for them to assist. So there's yes, but ultimately there's not, for them, they didn't view a strong business case where it made sense for them to get into the broadband business.
Thank you.
One quick one.
Go ahead, Richard.
In putting in your fiber cable, are you going to be restricted as far as distances from the other cable, or can you get pretty close to it? I believe you have to go a certain amount of feet below the electrical or telephone line, but how about another cable?
Yeah, we're going to be we'll be the lowest attachment on the pole. I can't recall the exact distance, but yeah, we'll be
not 2 or 3 feet, it's just inches probably.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly. It might be 18 inches or something. I can't recall exactly what it is, but yeah, it's relatively close, and we would be the lowest attachment on the pole.
Well, you'll have to get that number for the next Q&A that you do.
Right.
Bill, you have Brian and Elizabeth with their hands up too.
Oh, great. Thanks for watching that. Go ahead, Brian, and then we'll go to Elizabeth.
Yeah. Hey, great presentation. I'm surprised that it's only 1,000 miles to get to the households that are underserved. We have 400 miles of pipeline in our Sugarwood, so that sounds low, but I certainly trust your math. And I was curious, you said the only obstacles you see are kind of like lead times, labor, and materials. How about funding? I mean, can you quote some numbers, like to get to the underserved, it's going to require X amount of dollars, and we have X amount of dollars or Y amount of dollars. Tell me, Can you fill those big numbers in, please?
Yeah, sure. Our business plan is published on our website under the, check on the page. Let's see here. For those who are curious, on resources, the full business plan is on the resources page.
Thank you.
Currently, right now, we have, it depends on how many customers we have, but let's say it's 70 million to do, again, that's 29,000 addresses. Currently, right now, through the Vermont Community Broadband Board and with support from Governor Scott, we currently are, in a sense, earmarked just based off of the communities and the percentage of underserved to receive a little over $40 million of that 70 to do the build. The rest will have to be financed through commercial loans and bonding. We are working with. We are going to have guaranteed revenue through our first retail ISP tenant. We're getting mighty close, hopefully here in the next couple of weeks, to having a finalized MSA with Google Fiber, which guarantees our revenue to offset that additional financial cost. So the equivalent of what we need to finance, actually it's a little bit less, will offset what Google's contribution over their terms will be. So it works out. And again, that's just one tenant. Because we plan on having an open access multi-tenant network, any additional revenue can be reinvested in the network and ideally drive down that fee, the infrastructure fee for the consumer.
Thanks.
Sorry, Elizabeth?
I just have a comment, not really a question, because I just saw the presentation yesterday. I have been both an unofficial and now official member of the CUD's board, I don't know, for months now. And I think it's really exciting. We won't see the full effects for years, I think. But I think it's really exciting, and it will be something we can use to market our region. And I'm really excited about this amongst some of the other things that Franklin County is going and the state has going on. So I also appreciate Sean's leadership in this. I have freely admitted at some of the board meetings I'm hanging on trying to learn because it's a brand new world for me. But Sean's doing a great job, and I think that this will really make a difference to a lot of people and businesses for the region.
Well, that was very good, Elizabeth. You made me think about how is this playing out across the rest of the state? I think I heard some things and they were rather surprising. I felt more would be taking place, but we're really in the forefront here, it sounds like.
I like to think so. We are, I will tell you, everyone is working to the same goal. How they get there may be slightly different. Certainly everyone is looking to find what is in the best interest of their communities. Some CUDs are smaller. We are partnering with Lamoille Fiber. They are following along, we're on parallel tracks that we are, Lamoille CUD, excuse me. They are following along parallel tracks that we are. And again, that is in an effort to reduce or bring economies of scale to the project and reduce costs to the consumer. Everyone generally is doing this and has unique challenges. I certainly would not want to be in any case position. They have some really long spans. They have a surprisingly similarly sized network in terms of subscriber base or potential subscriber base, but significant amount of miles. They just have a different set of challenges. So the manner in which they get there is unique. I think what we are doing is the best option for our district. It was something that we were seeking a solution for roughly 2 years, and we kind of stumbled into some opportunities, and obviously the grant funding was very beneficial, and we were able to craft something that is unique, not entirely. I mean, it's certainly done elsewhere in the country. It's less common than an incumbent coming in and building it, or a direct private-public partnership where there's only one provider. We didn't feel that was the path for us, and that we wanted to find a way to introduce competition. We felt very strongly from the very beginning that a true open access network was really the only way. We just needed to figure out how to do it.
Well, we very much appreciate your time tonight and your really good answers to our questions. And we wish you all the best, and we're glad to be a partner in this with you, supporting in these early days, and certainly always there for the long term too. So continued success, and we look forward to hearing about that.
I appreciate that. And, before I go, obviously, without support of NRPC, our CUD wouldn't be here. Certainly without the assistance and guidance of Catherine, Sean Coleman, and Emily Cloft. They were vital to the early days of getting us up and running. So nothing but admiration for NRPC and what you've provided the CUD.
And that is a shared thought amongst us all. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
And thanks for coming. Take care, Sean. Okay, so for those of you that may not have heard or might be new to it, the NRPC is providing space and kind of business management assistance to the now Northwest Fiberworks, and it has been really important to its success. And I think it's actually been a model of some things that we hope that we can do in the future as well. Anything that you would add, Catherine?
I'll just add that the CUD is almost to the point of full independence, and they now have a financial manager and other staff, so they're able to really operate rather independently, and we're just available for technical assistance, mainly with Sean's help and Amy's assistance to get all the books transferred over. So it was really great to be able to be part of supporting it when it started. Long time ago, we did the same thing actually with public transportation. The public transit network started in our office and ran out of it for about a year.
Kind of an incubator, and that's really good. It's really helpful. All right, so we'll move now to the commission reports, and we'll start with finance and operations. Harold?
Thank you, Bill. The Finance Committee did not meet, but in your packet is a profit and loss and your balance sheet. And is there any questions from the commission on any of the things that are printed in your packet? If not, Catherine, I have a couple for you. I know you like questions because that means that somebody's looked at it, correct?
Correct. I love them. I'm excited.
Okay. My first one is on healthy roots.
Yes.
Okay. We're still 4 months, but we've spent 90%. Are we going to make it?
We have received 90% of our anticipated budget revenues.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's what that shows. Mm-hmm.
Right. So that's the rest of it's coming in. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. The other one that I had on the income part of it is other state grants. What were them for $2,000?
I honestly don't know.
I don't either, and I should know, and
I should know,
but I don't either.
I
So
don't remember what that $2,800 is. I'm sorry.
Oh no, that's fine. And miscellaneous income, we only received 9.4%. Is that normal to be that low?
It is not normal to be that low, but miscellaneous income is where we tend to throw things that kind of come and go and are largely pass-through projects. So it could be that some projects have been delayed, but it doesn't really impact our bottom line because we haven't incurred the expense either.
Right.
So it's not the home to a lot of projects that support our overall operations.
Right. The reason I'm asking this, because if some, the other commissioners read this, they're gonna say, well, nobody's mentioned any of this stuff.
Yeah.
Now we get into the expenses. The insurance liability was up this time. What was the reason for that?
Our rates went up.
Right, so, yeah, that's what I assumed that, but I wanted to, hear, so everybody would understand that.
Yeah, our rates went up higher than we anticipated.
Okay, now on the balance sheet, what is the Northwest Vermont Regional Foundation?
That's our nonprofit corporation.
Okay, good. And down through a little further, undeposited funds of 65,342. What are undeposited funds?
I think that's a combination of advances and some funds that have been they've put in the account, but they're not yet booked to the proper allocation in the QuickBooks software.
Okay. Yeah. Like I said, I'm only asking this because of the fact that, somebody else might wonder.
Yeah, that's my best answer, but I'm going to double check that. And if I'm wrong, I will
Okay.
tell you next time.
I'm pretty near done. Payroll liabilities for $3.94.
It just has to do with our QuickBooks processing software, and sometimes it doesn't all get cleared out with when it gets reconciled at the end.
Okay, it goes
Yeah,
down
it's
to
a
the next
weird
one.
thing.
Yeah, the direct deposit liabilities of 5 cents.
Yeah, it's really.
And I know that,
it's mostly rounding errors.
right, but KBS would want to see that 5 cents, and I know that. The last one is that I've got to ask you about is accrued vacation of 48,000 something. And I know that's for all your employees. How much are, and can you refresh my memory? How much are you allowed to carry?
Yeah, we're allowed to carry up to 200 hours.
200
so
hours,
up
okay.
to 5 weeks.
Okay, so that makes up for that money.
Yeah, and we do have a reserve. We have set aside in our reserve funds to cover that liability.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I looked it over.
I know you did. The thing I thought you were going to ask me about that you haven't is why our accounts receivable are in negative.
Oh, I know. I do want to go there.
And so I was ready for that question. And our accounts receivable are usually a positive number, but in this case, it's a negative number because of the way our accrual accounting system works. When we get advance payments, which we've gotten for a few big grants recently, they show up as a negative in the accounts receivable. And so currently we have a net negative only because we have advance funds sitting in our accounts.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, Harold, thanks for the quiz. So we'll go to personnel and Lori Rupel.
We did not meet in the last month.
Okay. So the executive committee, we did meet. We have an action item for tonight on the agenda. We had a good meeting relative to a number of different items that we routinely talk about. One of the more important is in the staff and committee reports on page 8, and that is about the former Vermont National Guard Armory in Enosburg. We are going to provide access to some Brownfields cleanup fund for investigation into the structure of the building, for hazardous materials and the disposal of those. Looks like a very beneficial project for us to fund there. Otherwise, our other key item from the executive committee, again, will be our item on the agenda number 7 that follows these committee reports. Project review, Bob?
So the project review report from March, we reviewed a kind of a string of items. One solar project we've looked at a couple of times. We didn't really see anything major. We got our normal questions we asked everybody else. The one we probably talked about the most is the airport is come in for adding some additional hangars. And as we got into our discussion, recognizing that the airport has multiple plans that we haven't really heard all as one package, what we're going to do is see if we can actually get someone from the airport or from the state air division to kind of come in and give us a good overview of what's going on there, so we understand the full plan from the airport, because that will have regional impact to us in the future. Well, as they do this thing as one at a time, each individual project may not by itself have an impact, but when we add them all up, we think they could. So we're hoping that in the future, Catherine's going to be able to find somebody to come talk to the whole board about that. The Albert Golf Links, they're just looking for an extension on their gravel pit that they use for their own activities. And then the last one was a solar project, which is kind of an expansion of an existing solar project. And then there was a communication tower in Enosburg. Where that one got a little bit interesting is it looks like they're having a lot of discussions with Enosburg, but it's really on the border with Enosburg and Fairfield. And actually, I was trying to remember if there was another town on the other side also. So it's right down in the corner of the town. So we kind of want to make sure that they're really talking to all 3 towns that have potential site of this activity. On the surface, it looks like it's out in the middle of nowhere and nobody's going to have a problem. But we kind of asked to make sure everybody's involved.
Great, thanks, Bob. Are there any questions, comments? All right, we'll move to the Transportation Advisory Committee. Harold?
Thank you again, Bill. We met on 3/10 of 2022, and the main agenda was to review the potential highway and town highway bridge projects as part of the annual Vermont project selection. And I know that Bethany has reached out to all the communities that are involved in regional plan to see if there's any bridges that we as a committee might have overlooked that they think that we should look at and maybe move, get them onto the project listing. And we're hoping to hear back from them for our April meeting, because I believe we have to submit that, Catherine, by the end of April or sometime in May, back to the state.
I think you're right on the timing. I don't know the exact timing.
I think it's the May NRPC meeting that we have to review and vote on. So we have 2 more TAC meetings that we can finish this up on.
But we encourage all the towns or the committee members to look at the projects that are on the list to see if something that we might have missed, because we try to be very thorough, but we might have missed something that somebody really thinks that needs to be looked at.
All right, any other questions or comments for Transportation Advisory Committee? All right, we'll move on to Energy and Climate. Bob?
Energy and Climate Committee has not met yet, but we have been exercising staff to their limit to try to find a common date to have our meetings. And I think we found one. So
I
we
think
will
we
be
finally
meeting in 2 weeks, I think is what it is.
Yeah, there's quite a overlap of staff from, or committee members from project review and energy and climate, which kind of makes sense. And can't meet on the same night. All right, look forward to hearing more about that in the future. We'll move to Brownfields Committee. Catherine, I guess we still need to find a chair there.
Yeah, as a reminder, we do still have an opening on that committee for a board seat for a board member who would like to serve on the Brownfield Steering Committee. I will note it is a committee that tends to meet during the day, so that is one of the factors to consider if you might be interested. The only update I have is the cleanup funds that are going to the Enosburg Armory. That will be a very great thing to move that project forward.
Catherine,
Yeah.
I hate to do this in front of everybody, but if I don't, I'll forget. You were going to let Greta know that I was interested.
Oh, that's right. I did forget about that. Yes. Thank you for reminding me.
I know you're busy, so.
And I should also, and I'm glad you spoke up, because then we should also note that we finally got approval to spend some funds, some cleanup funds in Swanton. The name of the property is, Elizabeth?
Riviera Hotel.
The Affirma Riviera Hotel. So we're very excited about that.
Yes.
So there's the French Riviera and the Swanton Riviera.
Yeah, but I will guarantee you the French version is much nicer than the current Swanton version.
Well, you've got good goals to set for your crew up there to get close to the French. All right, we then go to regional plan and policy. That's yours, Elizabeth.
So we did meet and we had some great discussions. We do want to make sure that we focus on the diversity, equity, and inclusion and justice when we consider, writing the plan. I think we identified some areas. We did just kind of a quick discussion, and at the April 11th meeting, I think the board packet says we're meeting April 8th. It's April 11th. We will formalize, I think, the timeline in the path forward and how we do public outreach, which I think, Catherine, correct me if I'm wrong, starts May, June. So
Yeah, as soon as we can, and hopefully May.
yeah, so we're looking forward to it. I think, with COVID, it'll be interesting to see how some of the statistics change, and we talked about formatting and length and some of those things, but we are about to get cranked up on this, and we look forward to having a great plan and presenting it when it's done to the full board.
All right, thank you, Elizabeth. We move then to, I don't think Al is here. No, I didn't see Al, so I'm not sure if there's anything about the Vermont Economic Progress Council, Catherine.
I only know what's in the update that was in the packet, which was that there was a project that applied for tax credits.
Okay. So we move then to Green Mountain Transit. Bob,
Bill,
or,
if you don't
I'm
mind.
sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. I wanted to double check. So the Beta I was in on the veggie, the board meeting for Beta Technologies as part of FCIDC. They did submit an application. They used a particular term. They were kind of tentatively, they were given the amount that they would get if the application were to move forward. Franklin County is in competition with Plattsburgh. And I think it's been in the news, so it's not like I'm sharing anything secret, that they're having issues with the South Burlington DRB. regarding parking. I guess they are reconsidering their application, but if they don't work out the South Burlington issues, they will most likely go to Plattsburgh. So it's interesting that what happens in South Burlington can directly affect Franklin County, or not, because we're a small state. But the veggie application did move forward, but if they don't get South Burlington resolved, it's very unlikely they will come to the old Energizer building in St. Albans.
They already work out of Plattsburgh Airport somewhat,
A little bit, yeah, but
a couple of years,
yeah,
but their manufacturing is in South Burlington.
maybe. Well, part of it is the
Part of it is correct.
R&D, and they were looking to expand that facilities, but they asked for a hardship waiver to not have to put the parking in the back because the back is the airport. So anyway, that's just the latest on Beta Technologies and their veggie application.
Does anybody know the condition of what the old Union Carbide plant is? Is that under any type of brownfields condition, or?
I don't know.
Anybody know? Okay.
Maybe
I believe-
Laz would know if he were here, but he's not, obviously.
There is an identified brownfield on the site, I
There
believe.
is. But there isn't.
I believe there is on the property.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be too bad if they went across the lake. It would be nice to keep them here.
Definitely.
Well, I heard in the news that the South Burlington's looking at it, I think even tonight. So maybe we can save the project, but it's a big economic boost wherever it goes. Thanks for the inside information there, Elizabeth. All right, Bob or Catherine, Green Mountain Transit.
Green Mountain Transit, the big news is all the contracts are signed with the unions. So we're off and running for 3 years at least. The other piece is, I noticed it made VT Digger today. We are having to make some route changes to continue to drive costs down. GMT, like everybody else, with reduced transportation, reduced users during COVID, we're having financial issues, so trying to find ways to be more economical. So there are hearings scheduled over the next couple of weeks. They do not affect our region directly. They're more the link lines between Burlington, Montpelier, and Barry route and one of the Burlington routes. But anyway, just you may see it in the news that there is budget issues. It's not really a surprise to most of us. But you know, we continue to emphasize that transportation is key to all our social services, getting to jobs, senior accessibility, the whole string. So continuing to look for a way to try to make transportation work across all our regions.
Well, really appreciate the work that you all are doing there. It's very important, and I hope you have luck. Good luck. Lynn.
Well, Bob would
Oh,
be
sorry.
Bob would never mention this, so I'll highlight that Bob was the board representative in the rural contract negotiations. And so Bob's participation was crucial to us coming to an agreement and avoiding the planned strike. So he deserves huge compliments for that.
Wow, good job, Bob. Thank
Bob,
you.
how did you address possible inflation? As far as, did you factor in a certain percentage?
What you mean with the contract? You mean, or you?
Yeah.
There is a growth rate that's part of that contract for salaries.
Okay.
We try to put it in their factors, but we also try to put limits on there as we look at inflation factors to go with it. So.
Okay.
All right. So then we have Lynn for Healthy Roots Advisory.
Well, Healthy Roots did meet, but the really good news is in the annual report, which Catherine set out, and then Peter Jenkins has done a separate report for the gleaning, which I didn't send to Catherine. I sent it tonight, so she can send that out. And there's just a lot of good work being done, and the gleaning is very important for food insecurity in this region. And I think if you take the time to look at it, you'll be quite amazed at the amount of work that this tiny staff does and how much they really contribute. So please look over all the information. Thanks.
And you got to mention the, was it 5,000 pounds of sweet potatoes?
Oh, I know. And they were going to get thrown out or composted. And I guess the place where they were taken to called, and Peter went over and they saved half of them and distributed them. So they really jump right on any opportunity. So it's great.
And this is a good place to reiterate that if you read the reports, you'll see just how much our staff does, including those that work at the Healthy Roots Collaborative. It's again, amazing. Kirk is not here for the Northwest Vermont Regional Foundation. We did have a brief meeting within the executive committee meeting this March, the last couple of weeks, and really was just to install the new officers and to talk about where we're going in the future. As mentioned previously, high hopes with the transition away from COVID as the only thing in life to there are other things that the Northwest Vermont Regional Foundation would be more involved in some of those things and start to open up there. We'll then turn to staff for any highlights they would want to share from the really great reports that are in today's package.
I just have a couple of things I wanted to highlight. One is that we are getting ready as part of the Working Communities Challenge to release a request for proposals to do a housing needs analysis. And we're hoping to really, there's so much existing data out there. We're hoping to really rely on that and focus the analysis on identifying and quantifying our housing needs and potential solutions and opportunities. So you'll hear more about that. And then I wanted to let you know that we're working on a RAISE grant, which is a particular type of transportation grant. We're going to be submitting with Lamoille County Planning Commission and Northeastern Vermont Development Association, and we'll be applying for between $500,000 and $1 million to do bike and pedestrian plans across the 6 northern counties that make up the Economic Development District. What's unique about this funding source is it's 100% no match required. And you can do all the way up to right-of-way. So you can do the full preliminary design of projects. Normally planning funds can only be used for conceptual stuff. This, you can actually get the lines on the drawings and the estimates and get everything done other than right-of-way. So it's a pretty exciting program, and we're really hopeful that we're successful.
Well, that's great. Glad to hear that. That'd be really nice to have that kind of corridor here. I know a lot of people like to bike in our region, and where people might do that every day could be great.
Yeah.
Astrid, sorry, will that incorporate the existing Missisquoi and Lamoille?
Yeah, we really hope to use this grant to build on the opportunities that the completion of the Lamoille play gives us, especially connecting to the Missisquoi. And also will focus on areas that currently don't have access to bike and pedestrian facilities, as well as focusing on ensuring our villages and downtowns have up-to-date and adequate infrastructure in that area.
I've always been a road biker, but I am in the process of purchasing a gravel bike because I am really looking forward to summer to spending a
Yeah.
bunch of time on both the Missisquoi and the Lamoille.
Yeah, they're great. They're really
Planning
good.
a late summer trip to East Hardwick from the beginning of the Lamoille. Hope that things will be together, but
Awesome.
that, and isn't there another one that's down in the Montpelier region that's supposed to go east to west with the state? That
Yes,
they've been working on.
there is. And I'm getting a call from my son who's driving, so I'm gonna step out.
Okay, but thank you.
Yes, indeed. And we now will go to our next item of business. I think that was the last. Oh, I'm sorry. Dean, I saw you light up there. Did you want to have update?
Well, to just fill the void while Catherine is away, I would just be happy to explain that the 2 Basin Water Quality Councils held their first meetings in the last couple of weeks. So that's very good news and another sign of progress. And each of those groups will be meeting again in a month or so. The law and rule indicate that those bodies will meet at least quarterly, but we suspect that they will be meeting monthly, at least through the summer, and then perhaps adopting once every other month schedule. But if you have any questions about any of the work, please let me know. And thank you to Sarah Had, who is a member of one of the councils. And I see Bob Berman raising his hand, so maybe he has a question.
I do have a question, Dean. I believe I forgot the name of the Chittenden County, Southern Grand Isle County Water District. Did we have a seat on that board? Is that correct? As regional planning? Are you on that, Dean?
Yes, I am. That I neglected to mention as another hat that I wear, and Catherine is actually an alternate to that. And that group also had its first meeting.
Okay, I'd ask that you give us updates from that one on a regular basis also.
I would be happy to do that, and I just came ill prepared. But I can just say that we did have the first meeting, and unlike here in Northwest Vermont, we didn't want to pressure the new members to go straight to electing a chair and vice chair. But in so-called Basin 5, the plan was to identify a chair. And so there is sort of a tentative chair who does happen to be from the island. So he is a Grand Isle resident who is going to be, for the time being, the chair. And he is drawing on Ken from, I believe, from Grand Isle.
Sorry, it's Ken Mervis from Grand Isle.
Okay, thank you. And so there is an island flavor to the work of that group.
Great, thank you.
I like the sound of island flavor with anything, actually. All right.
Oh, Bill, you're
So-
so funny.
Yeah, I went to the Bahamas and met a bunch of Jamaicans, and I really learned from the 2 communities what island really means. So it does have good sentiments for me. All right, so we are at item 7 on our agenda, and it is the last page of your packet. And this is a letter to us all from the executive committee. We met and had a goal of making certain that despite our efforts to not take some sort of specific actions without really gaining a full understanding of what justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion could mean for a planning commission, we did want to have a statement for anyone that sought to know what the position of the Northwest Regional Planning Commission was relative to diversity, and we have crafted that from some language that is being used in a similar fashion by other regional planning commissions or communities. And it's at the bottom of that letter there to you all. And we hoped that we might be able to adopt this tonight. There were significant efforts to try to take what was provided to us in the beginning and make it something that we thought you all would appreciate representing the commission. So give you, in fact, I think what I'll do is I'll read it as a way to make sure that it's clearly in the record. It's the Northwest Regional Planning Commission's Statement of Inclusion. NRPC celebrates diversity and welcomes all persons, regardless of race, color, religion, national origin, sex, gender identity or expression, sexual orientation, age, or disability. NRPC wants everyone to feel and be safe and welcome in the communities we serve. We formally condemn racism and discrimination in all of its forms and commit to fair and equitable treatment of everyone in our communities. NRPC strives to ensure all of our actions, policies, and operating procedures reflect this commitment. NRPC has and will continue to support its member communities as places where all individuals can live freely, express their opinions, and feel a sense of belonging. How feels the commission about this statement of inclusion being adopted?
I would be happy to so move.
We have a motion to make this our statement of inclusion. Is there a second?
Second, Marietta.
Okay.
Thank you, Marietta. And any discussion?
Well said.
Thank you. And it was really quite an interesting effort of the executive committee. We learned a lot through the process, and we're actually quite happy with the result, and we're glad to bring it to you here tonight. Any further questions, comments?
I just wanted to add, Bill, that I'm really glad you read it, because hearing it out loud made it sound even nicer than when I read it. So I'm glad you did that.
Great, great. And I really think it works. Go ahead, Bob.
I'll kind of throw in a little bit more comment. The executive committee, just so you all know, we spent, what was it, 45 minutes working on the details and the words of this we didn't just blindly kind of throw into this. We really did spend a lot of time thinking very cautiously of how to word this in a way that we felt comfortable for all of us. So I'm glad to see support from the board coming in after all the work we did. Again, I agree. I think we learned a lot by doing that process.
Yeah, and I know we all actually brought up a lot of what we've learned over the last few months of our effort to incorporate more justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion in our work and in our learning. So it was a nice time for us to put this together. All right, if there's no further discussion, we'll vote on the motion. And all in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed, please say nay. And are there any abstentions? Well, thank you all for that. And our very last item on the agenda is, as always, Commissioner, actually not the very last, but the next to last, any commissioner announcements?
I'm not a commissioner, but before we fully move to that, I just wanted to acknowledge Dea, who did a lot of work to get the first draft of that statement to the executive committee. So since she's here, I wanted to make sure we acknowledge that and thank her.
Great. Thank you, Dea. And Andy.
Yeah, I just wanted to express a huge thank you to Greta Brunswick and Emily Kloft. We've been in the process of reviewing and updating our zoning regulations in North Hero. They have been a big help in coaching us. They both attended our planning commission meeting last week. And their input has been invaluable.
Great. Glad to hear that. Any other commissioner announcements or staff announcements?
So
Just
I
a
have-
quick
Go ahead, Devon.
just a quick message that maybe people do know. It's a big deal for us, but I want everyone to know that starting Friday, we can now cross the border without testing.
Yeah, that's great. That's really great. Thanks for reminding us of that. It's been a long, long time.
Yes, it has.
And then was it Elizabeth I heard?
Yeah, so I just have to share this because I don't have to share this part, but I'm going to. I had a really crappy commute from Rouse's Point this morning. So I was in kind of a grumbly mood when I got to work, and then I got notification that the VTrans Transportation Alternatives Program is fully funding partial implementation of our downtown scoping study that will finally be the beginning of making downtown Swanton safer for bicyclists, pedestrians, and motorists. So I think the first scoping study was done in 2000. So it's been at least 20, 25 years. So we, in the next few years, will be moving to make Swanton travel in the downtown safer. So made my day, made my week. I had to share. So there you go.
Well, we're glad that your day got
Yeah, thank you.
okay. Now for item 9. Anyone care to make a motion?
Okay,
Yes, go ahead, Howard.
I'll move we close the meeting at 8:29.
All right. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 We are adjourned. Thanks, everyone. Be safe.
Good night,
Take
everybody.
care.
Thank you.
Good night.
Catherine, I have a quick
Good
question.
night.
Richard, do you have a question?
Yeah, for Catherine.
Okay, she's still here. I'm going to stop recording if it's something that is.
No, it's not that important.
Well, I'll still stop recording unless you want it for posterity.
No, I don't need it for posterity.